If you're the one who does the grocery shopping in the family, I am sure you've noticed that the price of food just keeps going up and up. I was actually just at Costco the other day and I noticed that the price of the flour that I usually buy went up from $14 to $18. That is an almost 30% price increase. So I get it, it is easy to feel defeated looking at food prices these days, but don't worry, I am gonna walk you through a full meal prep, step by step, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and even a snack, all for less than $5 a day. And at the end of each recipe, I'll also give you some optional ingredient ideas, which you can add if you'd like. For breakfast, we are making overnight oats. Now, if you follow my channel, you probably know by now that I love oats for breakfast. They are a decent source of protein and fiber, plus they are super easy to make and very, very cheap. For this recipe, you'll need rolled oats, banana, peanut butter, and cinnamon. So we're just gonna take 4 Tupperwares and add 60 grams of oats into each of them. Now, since we're using water to save on money instead of using soy milk or almond milk or something like that, here's my hack for making your oats taste a little bit better. We are actually going to add bananas and peanut butter into the water, and this will give the oats a lot more flavor and a creamy texture without adding extra money from using a plant milk. So then we'll just pour this into each of the Tupperware. And then we'll just slice the remaining bananas. And this is basically just for texture variety. Sometimes I like to have little chunks of banana throughout my overnight oats. And the grand total for these peanut butter banana overnight oats is gonna be 55 cents. Now, if you did wanna spend a little bit more money and do a couple of add-ins, here are just a couple options. You could, of course, use some kind of plant milk like soy milk, oat milk, or almond milk. You could add chia or ground flax. You could add a spoonful of jam, or even more fresh fruit or frozen fruit. And now we're just gonna pop these into the fridge and let them sit overnight, and take one out each morning for breakfast. And if you don't like cold overnight oats, you can always just heat them up in the microwave instead. Okay, let's move on to lunch. We are going to be making burritos. Now, of course, these are also going to be super easy to make, and we are going to batch prep and pop them into the freezer so that anytime you need a quick meal, you can just take one out and reheat and eat. So for this recipe, you will need some dried beans, rice, frozen veggies, chili powder, salsa, and tortillas. We're gonna cook the beans first. We are just gonna measure out 300 grams of dried beans and cook them in our Instant Pot. Now, if you don't have an Instant Pot, you can actually cook dried beans on the stovetop as well. You just need to soak them overnight first, but it's actually super easy, and let me tell you, dried beans are so much less expensive than canned beans. So for saving money, I do recommend buying dried instead of canned. Once the beans are done cooking, we are just gonna drain off that cooking liquid and mix in our 1 tablespoon of chili powder. And we'll set those aside and get our rice cooking. Now, this is my favorite hack for cooking rice, and this actually works with a lot of other grains as well. All we're gonna do is add our frozen veggies directly on top of the rice as it's cooking. So this works in an Instant Pot, in your rice cooker, or even on the stovetop, and those will just steam as your rice is cooking, so you don't need to cook the veggies separately. And once that rice has cooked and cooled, we will just add in our salsa. I'm using about a half a cup here, and this will just give our rice and veggies a little bit more flavor. And now that everything is prepared, we will just assemble these burritos. And there you have it, 4 easy, healthy burritos that you can enjoy for lunch for just about $1 each. Now again, there are a couple other ingredients you could add here if you wanted to jazz up these burritos. You could add cilantro, green onion, frozen corn, or other spices. But again, just keep in mind that any extras you add will add on to the price. Lastly, we will just wrap these in some parchment paper and then in foil, and that'll just help keep them fresh in the freezer. So when you're ready to eat one of these, go ahead and remove the foil and defrost it in the microwave for about 2 or 3 minutes. Now, this last part is optional, but I like to pan fry my burritos after microwaving, and that'll get you that nice crispy tortilla, and I just think that makes these taste a little better. For dinner, we are going to make an easy noodle soup. So for this recipe, we are going to need noodles, tofu, frozen veggies, soy sauce, and veggie broth. Now, my hack for cooking noodles so that you don't have to cook noodles every single day is actually to batch prep them. We're gonna cook them all at once. And if you do that, you wanna make sure that you cook them al dente, which means slightly underdone, and that is so when they are reheated, they don't get mushy. So just keep an eye on them as they're cooking. Definitely don't let them overcook, and ideally we wanna drain and rinse them when they are slightly al dente. And now we want to rinse them in very cold water, or go ahead and just plunge them into an ice water bath. And that will stop them from cooking further and also make sure that they don't clump together. Next, we'll just cut our tofu into bite-sized pieces. For the broth, we are using this Better Than Bouillon broth paste because it is so much cheaper than a boxed store-bought veggie broth. And of course, it will become broth as soon as we add hot water to it. And now let's assemble our Tupperware. So again, we don't want our noodles to get soggy, and leaving them soaking in broth for a few days would definitely make them soggy and mushy. So we want to keep all of our ingredients essentially dry until we're just about to eat them. So we're gonna fill each of our Tupperware with some noodles, some of the frozen veg, which will just defrost by itself in the fridge, some of our bouillon broth paste, the tofu, and then we're just gonna drizzle some of this soy sauce directly on top of the tofu so it kind of marinates it a little bit, and is also just gonna add a little more flavor to our soup broth. And the total for this soup is $1.65. Now, you could also do different flavors of soup base, and of course there are other ways to jazz this one up as well. If you wanted to add something like chili oil, rice vinegar, green onion, sesame seeds, or even other veggies, but again, any of these may raise your costs a bit. So now let me show you how to eat one of these. What I like to do is to scoop the bouillon and marinated tofu into a bowl and add our hot water into there so that we can get our broth going. And then we'll just heat the remaining ingredients for about 30 seconds in the microwave. And that's just to make sure we're not adding cold ingredients into our soup. Then we'll just top it up with any hot water if needed and enjoy. If you wanted to add a snack into this meal prep, this is one of my all-time favorite snacks, and it just happens to be super easy, healthy, and cheap. Just slice your apple however you like and add your peanut butter. The total for this snack, 75 cents. Of course, if you want more calories or just a little more flavor in your meals, feel free to add any other ingredients or just increase your portion size. And if you want more money-saving tips, you have to watch this video here so I can show you my 12 easy ways for saving money on food.